Hello, welcome back. It's Professor Gray here, and it's time for week 13 of our practical English class. I hope you all had a good weekend and you're ready to start another week of TOEFL. As you know, the final exam is coming up soon. We have our week 13 lecture this week. Next week on Monday, I will give you our final video lecture, week 14. And then the following week, week 15, we will have our final exams. There will be one exam. It'll be in class. I've sent you the information about that. The exam will be here in class. It will take approximately an hour and a half. There will be reading and there will be listening, both. You will have both. There will be one passage of each from the book. So one reading passage that you have already studied, one listening passage that you have already studied. Then there will be passages that are new, and it's comprehensive. There could be questions about anything that we've studied during the semester. There will be one long, full-length reading passage with 13 questions, regular TOEFL length and regular TOEFL questions. Comprehensive. That will be one of the reading passages. There will be 4 reading passages in total. One is one you've already seen, one is a big full-length one, and the other 2 will be new and sort of medium length. The listening passages, there will be 3, one that you have studied before, 2 that are new. Again, we're doing it in class, so bring your mask. We have a big classroom, plenty of space, all that. Everything's gonna work just great. Just make sure you get here a bit early. Try to show up at least 10 minutes before the testing time. I think it's much better, then you can settle in and get comfortable. You don't wanna walk in and rush around and sit down and start taking a test. So try to come a few minutes early. It's better for you, and it's better for all of us if we're all there ready to go. Okay, speaking of ready to go, or if we're ready to go, let's look at the homework from last week. We did page 101, sand dunes, in class, and we talked about these schematic tables. The chart gives you the key points. It'll give you the main points of support or the main points of the essay, of the passage, and your job is to now fill in the details, the supporting details that support the main points, which in turn support the main thesis statement. If we look at a surprising connection, interestingly, we're talking here about how words in different languages are connected. A lot of English words come from Latin by way of Spanish or French or directly from Latin. And the words buckaroo and vaccine come from the same Latin root word, and that is the word for cow, bacca. Now in English, when we write a word that's not an English word, it comes from another language, we will use italics. And you'll see that certain words here are italicized, like bacca, V-A-C-C-A, which is the Latin word for cow, and vaquero, which means cowboy in Spanish. So we have words that aren't English words, but we write them in their native, whatever native language, but we use italics to show the reader this is not an English word. That helps you a little bit, I think, solving the answers here. At the end, the third paragraph talks about inoculation, something everybody all over the world has been doing over the last year, getting these inoculations, or the jab, as we call it. Jab just means to poke. And an inoculation, a jab is sort of not slang, but kind of an informal term, sort of common though, for an inoculation. And an inoculation, of course, is when you have medicine or a vaccine put into you with a needle. So the first ever vaccine came from cowpox, from fluid from a cow. that's why it's called vaccine, because VACC comes from vaca, which means cow in Latin. Also in Spanish, vaca means cow, but in Spanish there's only one C, VACA. Now, when I say the letter V, vaca, right? It's like a hard F, vaca. But in Spanish, it's more like somewhere between a V and a B, vaca, vaca. It's an unaspirated V. It's not vaca, it's more like vaca, vaca. So it sounds like a B, the way it's used by native Spanish speakers. And when they first encountered cowboys, they called them vaquero. Vaquero, which means literally cowboy. Vaca, cow, ERO means man. Like ER in English, bake, baker, teach, teacher. In Spanish, you just add an O to mean man or add an A to mean woman. A vaquero is a cowboy. I guess vaquera would be a woman, a cowgirl, or a female cowboy. And so the English speakers were going, vaquero, vaquero, and they thought, oh, buckaroo, okay. And so we adopted the word buckaroo to mean cowboy, and it works. Because when horses and bulls kick very violently, you've seen them try to kick somebody off their back. That's called bucking. So when a horse goes up on its back legs because it's angry, we call that bucking. So to buck is a horse or cow trying to kick somebody off its back. So the word buckaroo really works. It kind of makes sense in English because of bucking, buckaroo. So it all comes together. Anyway, let's just go over the answers now. I find this very fascinating, very interesting passage with the language history here. Buckaroo and vaquero. Now, vaquero is written in italics, so it automatically, that's not an English word. Therefore, number 7. Buckaroo is English, vaquero is Spanish. But they mean the same thing, number 2. They both mean cowboy. Buckaroo and vaccine are both English words. 5, same language. And vaca and vaccine. Vaca is Latin, vaccine is English. Number 1, different languages, Latin and English. And number 4, one is an animal, vaca is a cow, and vaccine is a substance used as kind of a medicine for inoculation for people who are getting a jab. Again, that's interesting to note that the word vaccine originally comes from the word cow, just like cowboy, buckaroo, vaquero, all from the word for cow in Latin. Carnivorous plants. Carnivore means to eat meat. Carne, again, it's Latin. It's a Spanish word. Carne means meat. So a carnivore is someone or something that eats meat. And a carnivorous something is the adjective form of that. If you only eat plants, you're an herbivore. Some people don't pronounce the H. Herbivore. I do herbivore, meaning you eat herbs or plants. So, elephants and giraffes are herbivores. Omnivore, O-M-N-I, omni means all or everything. Omnivore is something or someone who eats everything. I guess insects and anything else. I guess we humans are kind of omnivores, aren't we? We eat pretty much everything. And some plants, now plants, as we know, get their energy from the sun. And in Korean, that's Gwanghap-sung, if I hope I've got it right. And in English, of course, we call that photosynthesis. Notice in line 3, enhance their diet by fortifying it with insects and other small animals. To fort, F-O-R-T, fortify, means to strengthen it. Fort means strong. Again, Latin, it comes from the word for strong. Maybe you've studied music, and is it fortissimo, I think? It's very, very strong when you're playing music. So to fortify it is to make your diet stronger because they can't get enough sunlight. Maybe they have too many plants above them stealing their sunlight. So they eat insects. Well, the most famous one, of course, is the Venus flytrap, right? That looks like this, and a little bug or a fly gets in and tickles a hair on it, and it basically eats the fly or the mosquito or whatever happens to get in its trap. So in paragraph 1, notice how they set up the bridge, telling you what's coming in the rest of the essay. And it says, these carnivorous plants can be categorized as those without moving traps, ones that don't move, and those with active traps, like the Venus flytrap, that do move or ensnare prey, such as the sundew. To ensnare means to trap, right? A snare is a trap. It's another word for trap. So, and the first one is given to you, a sundew. The sundew has a moving part that ensnares prey. So that now we look at the 4 kinds here: butterworts, pitcher plant, bladderworts, and of course Venus flytrap, and just fit them in. Okay, active traps, of course the Venus flytrap, number 5, the sundew, number 7, the end of paragraph 1 tells us, and number 2, bladderworts. And inactive traps, the 2 that they mentioned are number 1, butterworts, and number 4, the pitcher plant. Pitcher plant really does look like a pitcher, like a mekju pitcher. And it's basically very beautiful plants. They have a fluid at the bottom and a very slippery surface at the top. So the fly or the mosquito or whatever insect, a bee, cockroach, they smell it and they go, oh, that smells delicious. And they get up here and then they slip down, fall into the water, they drown, and then the plant absorbs them and basically eats them. Amazing world we live in. Wow. I often thought it would be nice to have a pitcher plant in my home. Could probably help get rid of bugs. I don't know. I wonder if people do that. They're perfectly safe, but they need to be warm. They're from a tropical environment, so you have to keep them very, very warm in your house. All right. Next, William Faulkner. Now, have you read any William Faulkner novels? If you have, good for you. I'm impressed. They're not easy to read. They're very, very difficult. I had an English teacher in high school. Great teacher, great class. We learned English literature, but we had to read four novels by William Faulkner. Now, he's a brilliant novelist, but boy, not easy. Sometimes you read a book and it's very smooth and you understand everything and you follow it and it's a real page turner. And then other books, usually ones that your teachers tell you to read, you read a page and you get to the end of the page and you go, what did I just read? I don't know anything I read. And then you go back to the top and you read it again. Very hard to follow. Unfortunately, a lot of William Faulkner's books are like that. It's brilliant. He's won the Nobel Prize. He won the Pulitzer Prize. He's won all these awards. He's considered one of the greatest novelists in American history, but it's just hard to read. One book I studied, The Sound and the Fury, my friends and I were trying to read it, and we noticed that there was about 20 pages in a row with no punctuation, no period, no comma, nothing, just words across the page. Sort of almost like poetry. He wrote his prose in a style like poetry at times. And when you're just reading all these words with no breaks, it's very, very hard to follow. But anyway, as I said, he's considered a great novelist. And if you have a chance to read one of his books, they are brilliant, but it's just, not easy to read. Maybe if you major in English literature or American literature, then you will almost certainly read one of his novels. Well, the key point here in this passage is the 2 phases of his career. At the beginning, he was not very famous, not rich. He was considered a marginal writer, sort of regional. William Faulkner's from the South, I believe Mississippi. And his writing, his style, and also his storylines, his topics are from Southern culture. So if you want to learn about the old US South, Southern culture, his books are a great way to do that. But because of that, he was considered sort of like a regional author. Oh, he's kind of Southern style. Maybe the rest of the country was not that interested in reading it with them. So that's what we mean by marginal. Marginal is on the side, like the margin of the paper. The paper I gave you today has a margin here, the edge or the side. So to be marginalized is to be put over to the side, not in the middle, not in the mainstream. During the first phase, he made money writing magazine articles, screenwriter. He had to make money. Then in the second phase of his career, it took an unexpected and dramatic turn. Dramatic, big change, huge change. And he became nationally famous, even world famous. He won the Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize, all kinds of other awards. Very rich, very famous, very successful writer. But then he got so successful, he got into gentlemanly activities like horseback riding, and he actually died, succumbing at the end as a result of injuries suffered during a fall from a horse. Succumbing here means dying. When you succumb, you give up, and in this case, give up life or die because of these injuries. So he was so wealthy, he owned horses, he rode horses, and then ironically, he died falling off a horse one day. Okay, so in the first phase of his career, number 2, a small amount of critical acclaim. The critics, newspaper critics and whatnot. Okay, some people said, yeah, he's a good writer, pretty good, but just a little bit of critical acclaim means positive reviews from the critics. Number 5, merely regional. He was sort of a Southern writer. He's sort of an example of Southern style writing, not a national, and certainly not an award-winning author. Number 2, number 5, and number 8 made his living with writing other than novels. Yeah, they said screenplays, newspaper articles, and other things, I'm sure. He had to make his living, earn money. Make your living means earn money to live. 2, 5, and 8, the first phase of his career. Second phase, number 1, he was still is considered one of America's greatest novelists, number 1. Number 4, received numerous awards and acclaim, Nobel Prize, Pulitzer Prize twice, National Book Award, Novelist in Residence, all these wonderful honors and awards. Number 4, definitely. Number 7, made his living as a novelist. He didn't need to do other writing. He wrote novels and made lots of money. 1, 4, 7. Now, the last one is a bit confusing. If you put number 3, unfortunately, it's wrong. Number 3 says died as a result of a horseback riding incident. That was in the second part of his life. Really, that's the end of his life. That's not part of your career, right? Dying is not part of your career. It's the end of your career. It's the end of your life. And so number 3 is not the right answer. It happened in the second phase, I guess, kind of happened at the end, but that's not part of his career. Number 9, he had plenty of time for leisure activities because his career was successful. He became rich. He could afford horses, horseback riding, and he had lots and lots of time for these leisurely activities. So the second phase of his career is number 1, number 4, number 7, and number 9. 1, 4, 7, and 9. It's a bit tricky, a bit confusing. Okay, if you have any questions, please ask. That was a tough one. That was one of the tougher ones, I think, in the book. Among the practiced exercises, I would say maybe the toughest one. If you did well on it, good job. If you're interested in William Faulkner, you can ask me. I can recommend novels that are either really difficult or maybe some that are a lot easier. Some of his novels are much easier to read, and they're still brilliant, brilliant novels. So just let me know. Okay, we're going to do the first review exercise, page 105, 106, species, right? Let's see here, species. Yes, I want you to take 20, how much time do you need? Well, not 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. There's only 2 questions, but it is a full-length reading. Let's just say 10 minutes, more or less. But push yourself a little bit, but don't really rush. I want you to focus on getting the questions right and reading in a reasonable amount of time. Number 1 is like skill 9, okay, the main points. What are the main points? Remember, for number 1, read the bold sentence carefully. Make sure the answers connect to the bold sentence. And number 2, fill in the details. Those are the 2 main points, speciation and extinction. Fill in the details for those 2. All right, go ahead. Read species, answer 1 and 2, and then come back and I'll go over it with you. Right, so here, obviously, right at the beginning, here's your bridge. 2 key points, speciation and extinction. Paragraph 2, speciation. It's even in bold. It's so clearly laid out for you. Paragraph 2 focuses on speciation. What is speciation? Results when one species diverges into 2 distinct species as a result of disparate, different, completely different natural selection in separate, disparate, separate, different environments. And one reason for this is geographic isolation. There are 2 kinds of camels, the Asian camel and the African Middle Eastern camel. The Asian camels have 2 humps. I believe they're called Bactrian, and the Arabic, African, Northern African ones, dromedary, I believe, have 1 hump. It's camels, but they're 2 different camels. There's different elephants, Asian elephant, African elephant, different kinds of tigers all over the world. When it comes to geographic isolation, though, there's a couple of great examples of how different species evolved because of isolation. Australia. Australia has animals that nobody else has. Kangaroos, koalas, wombats, because they are isolated. They have been for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So they just grew differently. Madagascar is another good example. Madagascar is a big island off of Africa, but it's been very isolated for thousands of years. They have trees and plants, monkeys, all kinds of animals that are unique only to Madagascar. Very, very interesting examples. There's another little island called Socotra, which is part of Yemen. It's near the Middle East, Oman, Yemen, that area, but it's owned by Yemen. I haven't been, I would love to go, but Socotra is also like that. It's like this little island that's like a different planet. It looks like a setting for a science fiction movie. They have plants and trees, and I think some animals that are completely unique to this little island because of its isolation. So Australia is huge, Madagascar is pretty big, Socotra is small. Doesn't matter how big the space is, if you've been isolated, you get speciation, you get different species resulting from that isolation. They give the example also of the fox. The one fox, there was one type of fox, then they split up. One went north, very cold, right? They wanted, everything smaller to keep the heat in. And then the other foxes went south, and it was warmer, and they wanted, bigger ears, bigger noses to kind of release more heat, and so on and so forth. Also, the colors were different, right? Camouflage. We've studied Weichang, the camouflage before this, earlier this semester. Now, paragraph 3, another process is, of course, extinction. And this is when a species ceases to exist. Cease means stop. It stops existing. No more. Finished. Extinct. All dead. All gone. Dinosaurs, all the various types of dinosaurs are the most famous examples, of course. The dodo bird is now extinct. But what causes this? Well, usually a catastrophic event or cataclysmic, same thing. Don't be confused. Those words mean the same thing. Catastrophe, disaster. Catastrophic event, disaster. Cataclysmic event, disaster. Things like a tsunami, a volcano eruption, earthquake. These are all natural disasters that can cause extinction of various species. Now, the latest theory about the dinosaurs is that a meteorite hit Earth, bang, in the ocean, and so much water, salt water, got into the atmosphere, got on the land, it just killed. It didn't actually kill the dinosaurs, I believe. It killed all their food. All the plants died and other animals died. You don't have to kill the animals, you just have to kill their food, and now they have nothing to eat and they will die. But I think also the change in the air, all that water and salt in the air caused all kinds of problems for a lot of species. That's a cataclysmic event. That's a natural disaster. Okay, in paragraph 4, the main point here is simply that speciation has clearly kept well ahead of extinction. Why? Because there's so many species out there. There have been numerous periods of mass extinction, clear evidence that periods of mass extinction have been followed by periods of dramatic increases in new species to fill the void created by mass extinctions. Amazing. When the dinosaurs disappeared 65 million years ago, for example, the evolution and speciation of mammals increased spectacularly over the millions of years that followed. Ensue means to follow, come after. Okay, very, very, very interesting. Wow. Okay, so let's take a look here. One thing that I find interesting is that more than 99% of species that have ever existed on Earth have become extinct. I didn't know that. 99%. So what is living now on planet Earth, including us, is 1% of all the species that have ever existed on this planet. That's kind of strange to think about. All right, so what are the main points here? Number 1, this passage discusses processes affecting the development of millions of species. And what are the main points? Number 3, a single species can develop into distinct species through a process called speciation. Paragraph 2, main point, speciation, number 3. Number 3 connects to paragraph 2. Number 6, numerous species become extinct when they fail to adapt to evolving conditions or fail to survive a cataclysmic event. Cataclysmic, catastrophic, disaster. Number 6 is paragraph 3, main point. Number 3, number 6, and what about paragraph 4? Number 1, though numerous species have become extinct, far more new species have developed than have been lost. So number 1 is from paragraph 4, number 3 is from paragraph 2, and number 6 is from paragraph 3. 3 paragraphs, 3 main points, 3 answers of the key points. Number 1, number 3, number 6. You can write them in any order. Number 2, there's the 2 main points right there. What are the 2 main points? Speciation and extinction. Fill in the numbers that support each main point. What are the details here? Speciation is number 2 and number 5, creating new species. Arctic fox, desert fox, from 1 fox, now 2. Asian elephant, African elephant, 1 elephant, now 2. And number 5, separation of populations. Again, the fox was the best example in the story, but there are many, of course. Extinction, number 1, failure to adapt to changing environments. Number 4, failure to adjust to a cataclysmic event, a disaster like the dinosaurs. They couldn't adjust fast enough after the meteorite hit Earth, and they all went extinct. Number 7, the disappearance of a species. All gone. That's extinction. They all disappear, they're all gone, they're all dead, finished. Number 1, number 4, and number 7. Number 3, merging means coming together in one place. And number 6, commingling means literally mixing, like making babies together. Commingling, living and mixing and making children together. Number 2, 5 for speciation, and number 1, 4, 7 for extinction. How did we do? Any questions, please ask. Homework, one thing, this is it. Boy, you've got a lot of free time. Make sure to use it wisely. Start getting prepared, start reviewing, get ready for our final tests. But the one homework thing you have to do is decisions. Page 107, 108, probably just focus on page 108. And then the questions, page 109 and 110. 13 questions, one story, 20 minutes. Time yourself, really try to finish in 20 minutes. If you don't, then continue and finish, of course. Tell me your time. One thing for homework, one passage, finish it, keep track of your time, write it down, and tell me in your email, Professor, I have finished all the homework, I did the decisions review, and it took me Momo minutes. That's it, stop. Page 110, stop. We'll continue next week. We'll review that and continue on next week in our final lecture video. Listening comprehension, page 172, economics presentation. Okay, the scripts are on page 597, 597. So let's quickly just hear. Basically, this professor, she's very, very strict, right? She says, your presentation is half your grade for the course. 50% of your entire grade is this one presentation. What do you have to do? Well, you need to include both the theory and the present day situation and make it clear how the theory is applicable to the present day situation. So, applicable means it applies to it. You can use this theory to explain the real present day situation. So you need to take a real life situation, a real business, economic situation involving a company, a bank, a country, and show how the theory in the textbook applies to that situation. The answer is C. An analysis of the failure of National Bank is a real situation, present day, real life, real situation, the failure of National Bank. Why did it fail? Well, it has to do with the theoretical model of diminishing returns, less and less money coming in, fewer and fewer profits. So the theory from the book, from the textbook, is the theory of diminishing returns, and the real life, real world, present day example is the failure of National Bank. Number 8, D, a concise presentation and an equal amount of time for questions. Equal. 5-minute presentation, 5-minute questions. Equal. 5-minute, concise. You can't just talk and like, oh, look at this, and here's an example, blah, blah. No, you need to take all the main points and put them in a nice little box that's 5 minutes long, not a second longer. Believe me, I had professors like this. Time's up. What? 5 minutes, you stop. And number 9 is A. Get involved in asking questions. You can't just sit and listen and like pretend you're involved in the class. No, you've got to be an active listener. Probably she's taking notes on who's asking questions. That could be part of the grade. Professors will do that. They'll say, well, you know, this student asked a lot of good questions, was very involved in the learning, was very involved in the other presentations. Yeah, You'll get points for that. Maybe now your presentation is 1 grade higher because you were so involved as a listener. Yeah, it's part of being a good student. So, A, get involved in asking as many questions as you can. Get as involved as you can. Number 7, C. Number 8, D. Number 9, A. All right, next. History, the Outer Banks. Okay, go ahead. Listen. I sent you the listening files. So listen and answer number 1 through number 7. Page 173 and 174. Okay, the Outer Banks are outbank. A bank here is not unheng. No, a bank here is where the land and the ocean come together, like a shore. Okay? A bank is usually a little higher, like not a beach, but sort of a bit higher, and like a river bank. And so in North Carolina, you see the ocean hits these small, thin islands. Almost looks like a bunch of pencils lined up together. And that's on the outside. So you have the outside bank, ocean meeting the islands, then an inside bank where the ocean meets the mainland. Ocean, 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 bank, ocean, 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 mainland. The Outer Banks are the outside bank where ocean first meets land. And what are they talking about here? Well, number 1 is A, historical events at 3 locations, Kitty Hawk, Roanoke, Ocracoke. How are they presented? What's the organization here? Chronological. Okay, chronological. The 16th century, the 18th century, and then the 20th century. 1700s, 1900s, and 1500s, 1700s, 1900s, 15, 17 to 19. Anyway, 16th century, 18th century, 20th century. And that's number 3. Okay, number 2 is D, chronological. And number 3, well, who were the first ones that they talked about? The lost colonists. Next, Blackbeard, 18th century. Finally, Wright brothers, 20th century. Lost colonists, 16th century, chronological first. Blackbeard, 18th century, chronologically second. And the Wright brothers, 20th century, chronologically third. Number 4, again, pretty easy, I think. Roanoke Island was the lost colonists. Ocracoke Island was Blackbeard, and Kitty Hawk was the Wright brothers. Number 5, B, colony was established on Roanoke Island. C, a place was used as a pirate's hideout. Okay, a pirate needs a place to hide from the Navy ships, from the police, hide from the authorities. That's a hideout, hiding place for a criminal, quite often. And E, a place where an event in aviation history took place, of course, Kitty Hawk. Kitty Hawk was where the Wright brothers flew the first airplane. That's aviation history. Aviation means flying airplanes and whatnot. Maybe you saw a movie called The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio. The aviator means the flyer, the airplane flyer. Number 6 is B. They were not all positive, no. Blackbeard was a bad guy. He was a pirate, and the lost colonists all died, so B. And number 7 is C. They're going to go on to the final question. Now let's go on. One more to go. We're almost there. One more question to go. Now let's go on to the final question. All right, number 7C. Always listen at the end. Right at the end, there might be a hint like what's happening next. Okay, now let's do number 4. Okay, always listen and make note of what is happening next after the talk. There could be a question like number 7 here. One more, botany, leaf arrangements. Botany, of course, is the study of plants. Trees, plants, flowers, and so on. Go ahead, read about leaf arrangements. Answer the questions on page 176. Phyllotaxy. Boy, that's a word we don't use very often. But phyllotaxy means how the leaves on a plant are arranged. And we see the 3 pictures. Picture number 2 is what's called alternate. 1, 1, 1, 1. Picture number 3 is called opposite, 1 and 1 together, opposite each other on the node, on the stem. The node is where they hit the stem. So alternate is 1, 1, 1, 1. Opposite is 2, 2, 2. And then world, picture number 4 is 3 in a row. Like a world means like spinning, a spinning in a circle, that's world. Okay, number 1 is A, right? We learned that there's a specific assignment. Go to the botanical garden, write down examples of each one. Number 1 is A. Number 2, B and C. They're generally quite orderly, and they're arranged in ways to maximize the sunlight. The plant wants the sunlight to hit the leaf to give energy to the plant. And so it tries to find the best way. I'll put my leaf here and here and here, and I'll get the most sunlight possible. B and D. Number 3, pretty easy, I think. Alternate has 1 leaf per node. Opposite has 2 leaves per node. Whorled has 3 leaves per node. Alternate 1, opposite 2, whorled 3. Number 4, most common is the alternate, least common is the whorled, and opposite is in the middle. Not the most, not the least, right in the middle. Alternate, most common. Opposite, neither most nor least. And whorled is the least. Number 5, botanical garden. A, it belongs to the university. And D, it has examples of all 3, of course. Your job is to go to the botanical garden, find examples of all 3, and write them down. Oh, here, maybe take a picture too. Here's example, alternate example, name of plant. Here is opposite example, name of plant. Here is the whorled example and the name of the plant. And therefore D, it has all 3. Number 5 is A and D. It has all 3 examples, of course. And number 6, wait a minute. Oh, hold on. Don't go yet. What? Class is not over. No, not class is not over. Class is over. Tricky, isn't it? Class is over, but wait a minute. I have one more thing to say. So he's not saying class isn't over. He's saying, hold on, I need to tell you one more important thing. All right? So please wait and listen. I have something more to say about, of course, here the timing, the opening hours of the botanical garden. He's saying, don't procrastinate. Get your job done. Get your work done. Don't do it the night before. So many students do everything the night before a test, the night before an assignment is due. I know, I was a student once, but really not the best way to do it. No homework in listening. That's it. We're done with listening. Next week, we're going to do the post-test. Just stop. You can review the listening. Take the extra time to review everything. Review the reading. Review the listening. All the skills, all 10 reading skills, all 6 listening skills. All of them will be on the test at least a little bit, right? So get the review done, get the studying in, ask me questions, please, if there's things you don't understand. But the actual the only homework you have to do is the decisions passage from reading, the final reading review passage. Get that done, email me, tell me you got it done, tell me how long it took you, and spend the rest of the time as much as possible preparing for our exam and your other exams too. That's all, everybody. Next week I'll review the reading homework, and we'll go on to do our final in-class practice tests. You did a great job this week. Thank you for your hard work. Have a great week, everyone. I'll talk to you next week. I'll look forward to getting your emails. Bye-bye.